cool. Sorry about the Periscope. I had to put stuff together. Shalom. Son Christ bless. Officer Lemuel out of out of Dallas, Texas. History in the AM. Hey, shalom, Sister Lily. History in the AM. Right now, we're in 2 Kings 21. Last week, if you weren't able to join in, Monday we did a Shalom Periscope. Monday we did 19 and 20, and then Tuesday I got the opportunity to fill in for brother and brother Yari, and we went over Isaiah 56, and you know, it ended up being edifying, just because it went right into what we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. Hey, will you get this light over here? Sure. Thank you. So it flowed right into what we've been talking about for the last couple of months. Hey, shalom, Sister Eliora. So Lord's will, I'll do kind of a be able to do. I'll probably go with John 4 next time, just because it's kind of a fulfilling, or one of the first times where you see the fulfillment of Isaiah 56 and Isaiah 11, Isaiah 7, Hosea 1, some other different prophecies, things like that. So anyway, I don't want to keep rambling, but yeah, so next time, Lord's will, we'll be able to, I'll just hold off on Kings. Maybe when we finish Kings, I'll go into, we'll just go for John 4. All right, but as of right now, we're in the 2 Kings, the 21st chapter. There was a prophecy that Isaiah prophesied about Assyria, not Assyria, about Babylon. Well, yeah, Assyria being taken out, and Babylon raising up into power and overthrowing Jerusalem. Matter of fact, we'll read real quick. 2 Kings 20. 2 Kings chapter 20. This one, Hezekiah was sick. I mean, Hezekiah was at this point, closer to the grave than ever. All right, and Isaiah's prophesying to him. Let's start at verse. We'll just do some jumping around. Isaiah 20. Isaiah 2 Kings chapter 20. Brother Abaddon on. But before we do that, let's send a prayer up. Let's rise and praise Jerusalem. Brothers, cover your head. Sisters, cover your head. The Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, thank you for another day of grace, another day of mercy, Father. We thank you for another opportunity for repentance, Father. We pray that you will give us peace and healing in our homes, Father. We pray that the men will stand up as men in their homes, Father, that the wives will reap that the wives will follow, Father. As we continue to heads of Christ in the homes, Father, we pray that you continue to lead us and guide us in truth and desperate, Father. We pray for blessing and healings to the nation of Israel, Father, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Father. We pray for destruction to our enemies, Father. We pray that you would make swift vengeance on them speedily, Father, and we may be saved from our enemies, Father. And we are subject to Christ, we thank you for it. Amen.
Second Kings chapter 20 and verse 7. And Isaiah said, take a lump of figs, and he took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. Excuse me. Verse 8. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, this is Isaiah the prophet. I'm talking Isaiah the prophet. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord will heal me, and that I shall go up into the house of the Lord the third day? And Isaiah said, this sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he had spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees or go back 10 degrees? So, because Hezekiah went in and tore down all of the groves and the high places, and he broke down all the graven images and things like that had been set up in Jerusalem. The Most High said this about him in verse 3. I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. So because he went through, when you read chapter 19, 18 and 19, he tore down all of the graven images and things like that. Because he did that, the Lord gave him additional 15 years on his life. We'll go back to the book real quick. So, right, find it real quick. Here we go. So right before Hezekiah, you had King Ahaz that was in power. Ahaz, he went through and he was setting up graven images and altars of Damascus and all this other stuff, all kind of crazy stuff. This is Home and Quick Source Bible Atlas. Very good resource. I recommend it for your studies. Very good with maps and stuff, of course. Once pretty soon, I'll be using those maps that are in there and getting them blown up and putting them in my house. Depending on what part of the world you're in, face Jerusalem. So us that are on the Western Hemisphere here in America face the east, but you face Jerusalem, so whatever direction Jerusalem is, depending on what part of the world you're in. All right. We also read in 2 Kings 20 about the prophecy of Babylon coming into power and coming through and destroying the temple in Jerusalem and making Jerusalem desolate. Let's get 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 17. Let's start verse 16. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. So it was already prophesied that Babylon would be coming into power, and this prophecy is going to be fulfilled as we read later on, which we may not get to it today, but definitely next week, Lord, if it be the Lord will. Let's jump over to chapter 21. 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 1. It says, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. The heathens are the other nations outside of Israel, outside of the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We are the biblical Israelites. All right. It says, verse 3, for he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed. Hezekiah destroyed the high place that Ahaz built up. So it was just this back and forth in Jerusalem. Everybody else in Jerusalem didn't know what the hell was going on, because you would have 20, 30, 40 years of, righteousness and the images being torn down and them coming back to the Lord. Then you have another 20, 30 years of the image, high places and the groves and the graven images being erected and built back up. And so it was just this up and down, back and forth between evil and righteousness amongst the southern kingdom, because the northern kingdom by this point it was in captivity. Verse 3 again, for he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal, and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, in Jerusalem will I put my name. Which is why, like somebody just asked about what direction we face. We face Jerusalem because of what it says in First Kings, the 8th chapter. Hold this, First Kings chapter 8 and verse. Just a second. Give me just a second. Okay, First Kings chapter 8, verse 48. First Kings chapter 8 and verse 48. It says, and so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul, the land of their enemies here in America, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land. When it says towards their land, it's the land that the Most High put his name in, which is Jerusalem. It says, which thou gavest unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name. So when it's talking about praying towards the land, that's what it's talking about, praying towards Jerusalem. First Kings. So write that in write that in your notes. First Kings chapter 8, verse 48 is the reason why, us here in the Western Hemisphere will say, rise, face the east. We're facing the land. We're praying towards the land, like the Lord told us in First Kings 8:48. And that's the reason why we know it's a future prophecy, because it says, and with all their soul, in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive. Which led them away captive, which right now in the land of our enemies, in the land of the so-called white man, and carried us away captive here to Babylon, aka America. Let's go back. 2 Kings 21, verse 4. 2 Kings 21, verse 4. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, in Jerusalem will I put my name. place thy name, like we just read in 1 Kings 8:48. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire. So when it says he made his son pass through the fire, they had a place called Hinnom, Valley of Hinnom, where there was a inferno, a big fire, and they would toss their children in. It was the same thing you would consider today as an abortion. Hinnom, hold on, I can actually Hinnom, I believe it's Hinnom. Hold on, let me make sure. I believe it's called Hinnom. Yeah, it's Hinnom. Let me find it real quick. Actually, I think we're about to. No, we're not. Maybe not. Let me see. Let me see something. Yeah, we're actually gonna read it today or tomorrow, but it's Hinnom. So when we read it later on, you'll know what it's talking about. Verse 5, verse 6. And he made his son pass through the fire and observed times and used enchantments and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. And he set a graven image of the grove that he had made in the house of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they observe to do according to all that I've commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they, excuse me, but they hearkened not. And Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than did the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the children of Israel. So if you're talking about a destructive people, the Lord said the Israelites is more destructive than all the nations that I've destroyed around them. Israel can do more evil. Right now we're in 2 Kings 21 and verse 9. 2 Kings 21 verse 9. So Israel was seduced by Manasseh into doing more evil than all the other nations. All right, so it says verse 10. And the Lord spake by his servants, the prophets, saying, because Manasseh king of Judah hath done these abominations, and hath done wickedly above all that the Amorites did, which were before him, and hath made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle. So whoever hears, excuse me, verse 13, and I will stretch over Jerusalem the line of Samaria and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wipeth a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. So he said, I'm gonna give Jerusalem the same punishment I gave the northern kingdom. Send you into captivity. I'm gonna have them come in and make your houses desolate, make your temple desolate. It says, and I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wipeth a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. So you know how you do dishes and you get water all over the floor and you scrubbing that thing, you turn it upside down and you doing all that. The Lord said, I'm gonna do that same thing to Jerusalem. I'm gonna do that same thing to the southern kingdom. Because y'all are evil as hell. Y'all got all these graven images, y'all are doing more evil than the nations, than other nations, than the heathens. Y'all being more evil than the freaking heathens. And they don't even have a God. No God saved them from brought them out of Egypt, brought them through the Red Sea. gave them manna, gave them water out of a rock. No other God did that for their nation. No other, none of them idols or false gods did that for any other nations. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't give them a law. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face. He didn't speak to him in parables or similes or metaphors or nothing like that. He gave Moses straight laws to give to the nation of Israel only. And y'all do this. So guess what? I'm gonna send other nations against you. I'm gonna send the Babylonians against you. They're gonna be more fierce than any other nation you've ever dealt with. They'll be more fierce than the Assyrians because they're gonna come in and destroy Jerusalem. All right, verse 14. And I will forsake the remnant of mine inheritance and deliver them into the hand of their enemies, and they shall become a prey and a spoil to all enemies, because they have done that which was evil in my sight, and have provoked me to anger since the day their fathers came forth out of Egypt, even unto this day. Moreover, shed innocent blood very much. So you had a lot of Jerusalem till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another. So this, today would be modern day Chicago, Chirac, where you just see killing up and down the streets, black on black crime. That's what this is. That's what you're reading about right now, because all of this was in Jerusalem. This wasn't like an entire, 6 tribes of Jerusalem or 6 lands. This was literally just in Jerusalem, where you're filling the streets with blood. Let me find a good map real quick. If I can't find one that's cool, give me just a second. Okay. So you're not talking about. So you're not talking about an entire the entire left part of the tribes or the west part. You're literally just talking about Jerusalem, which is right. What's Jerusalem? They don't even say it right here. It's somewhere in there. It's in Judah, where Judah is, which is a very small portion, but it's not on this map. Here we go. There we go. Right there. In Judah. I know that's a bad picture. I'm sorry. Looking about the glare. There we go. Jerusalem is right there. Right there in the corner. Right there in the corner. And it says, verse 2 Kings 21:16. Moreover, Manasseh shed innocent blood very much, so he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, beside his sin wherewith he made Judah, and doing that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. Verse 17. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh and all that he did, and his sin that he sinned, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah? Let me grab some. Oh, so now we in verse 18. And Manasseh, 2 Kings 21, verse 18. And Manasseh slept with his fathers and was buried in the garden of his own house, in the garden of Uzzah, and Amon his son reigned in his stead. Verse 19. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Meshullemeth, the daughter of Haruz of Jobah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his father Manasseh did. And he walked in all the way that his father walked in, and served the idols that his father served, and worshiped them, and he forsook the Lord, God of his fathers, and walked not in the way of the Lord. And the servants of Ammon conspired against him and slew the king in his own house. And the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Ammon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. Now the rest of the acts of Ammon which he did, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Judah? And he was buried in his sepulchre in the garden of Uzzah, and Josiah his son reigned in his stead. So as you can see, Ammon did not have a very long reign at all, because he was dealing in the same evil that his father Manasseh was dealing in. Idolatry and the high places, enchantments, dealing with witchcraft, and today how you would have observer of time, people that deal with horoscopes and stuff like that. All right. Chapter 22 and verse 1. 2 Kings chapter 22 and verse 1. It says, Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jedidah, the daughter of Adiah of Boscath. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, and walked in all the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And it came, excuse me. And it came to pass in the 18th year of King Josiah that the king sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, son of Meshullam, the scribe, to the house of the Lord, saying, Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may sum the silver which is brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the door have gathered of the people, and let them deliver it into the hand of the doers of the work that have the oversight of the house of the Lord, and let them give it to the doers of the work which is in the house of the Lord, to repair the breaches of the house, unto carpenters and builders and masons, and to buy timber and hewn stone to repair the house. Howbeit there was no reckoning made with them of the money that was delivered into their hand, because they dealt faithfully. So I'm going to jump back up to verse 4. Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may sum the silver which is brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the door have gathered of the people. So you had men that were set up to collect money from the people of Jerusalem to make renovations to renovate the temple. That's what they were doing. They were renovating the temple. And so they delivered the money to Hilkiah, the high priest. And Hilkiah, the high priest, was given instruction to give it to those that were actually doing the work, so that they can continue to get materials and hewn stone and things like that. So it says, verse 7, howbeit there was no reckoning made with them of the money that was delivered into their hand, because they dealt faithfully. So they wasn't sitting up, trying to count every last penny and making sure that, they were able to account for every single dollar that they gave them, bringing the money up to today's time. They was not reckoning the money like that. They wasn't keeping tabs of it like that, because the people dealt faithfully. The doers of the work dealt faithfully. The high priest dealt faithfully. They were given the money to give to the doers, and that's exactly what they did. The doers were given a job to make sure that y'all have the materials y'all need in order to build up the temple, and that's what they did. Verse 8, and Hilkiah the high priest said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. So when it says the book of the, what does it say? When it says the book of the law, what is it talking about? They found the book of the law. What did they find? Exactly. They found the Bible. So now you got to paint the picture. If they're just now finding the Bible, what have they been doing for the last couple of decades? If they're just now finding the book of the law in the temple, What have they been reading on the Sabbath day? What they've been doing? So there was a period of time. There was a period of exactly. There was a period of a couple of generations where not generations, a couple of what's the 10 years? Not generations. A couple of decades. Decades. It was a couple of decades where there was no truth in the land. They wasn't reading the scriptures on the Sabbath, as it was commanded, high holy days, things like that. They had just found the book of the law. So let's read on verse 9. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king, Josiah, and brought the king word again and said, Thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of them that do the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath delivered me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he's closed. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam, son of Shaphan, and Achor, the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asahiah, a servant of the king's, saying, Go ye, inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest and so this is the same thing. He's having a similar revelation we have. Yeah, he knew he was Israel, but he realized, just like we realize, is dang, the reason why we're in the condition we're in is because the Lord put us in this condition because of our evil. The Lord was pissed off, like you read in Romans 5, with enemies of God. And so that's the reason why he put us in slavery on slave ships. That's the reason why he sent us to the land of our enemies. That's the reason why we're distressed day and night. That's the reason why we serve the Lord in fear, like it says in, I believe, Isaiah. Right? Verse 14. So Hilkiah the priest and Ahikam and Akbor and Shaphan Asahiah went unto Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, the son of Tikvah, the son of Harhas, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they communed with her. And she said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, tell the man that sent you to me, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the words of the book which the king of Judah hath read, because they have forsaken me and have burned incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be kindled against this place, and shall not be quenched. Verse 18. But to the king of Judah, which sent you to inquire of the Lord, thus shall ye say to him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, as touching the words which thou hast heard, because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Lord, when thou heardest what I spake against this place and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and has rent thy clothes and wept before me. I also have heard thee, saith the Lord. So what did they do? What did the king do? Let me read verse 19. Because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Lord, when thou heardest what I spake against this place and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and hast rent thy clothes and wept before me. I also have heard thee, saith the Lord. So, what did the king do? What does it mean? I'm looking for one word. I'm looking for a specific word. Exactly. They repented. Made supplication is good. But repentance, yeah, they repented. It was like, dang, what do we do? We've been evil, we dealt evil with the Lord. We've been treated the Lord evil, setting up groves and high places and dealing in idolatry, so on and so forth. So they repented. Verse 20. Behold, therefore, I will gather thee unto thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered into thy grave in peace, and thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring upon this place. And they brought the king word again. So in Josiah's time, he didn't have to go through the hell that was getting ready to take place. That was going to be later on down the line, right? Let's go to chapter 23. 2 Kings chapter 23 and verse 1. And the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and of Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of covenant which was found in the house of the Lord. So Josiah starts to read the Bible. He starts to open up the Bible to people and starts to read it to them. You read that same thing in Nehemiah 8 when the book of the law was opened and it was read out loud for all of the people to hear. The same thing in Acts or in the Gospels in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, where Christ goes into the temple and he's teaching out of the law and the prophets. Paul did the same thing. So that was always a custom of ours. So like even for us on the Sabbath, when we're listening to the bishops and the deacons, with class and they're reading out of the book of the law, that has always been a custom of the nation of Israel. It's always been a custom that we read the book of the law on the Sabbath day, on the high holy days, of course other days, but mainly on those days, the high holy days and the weekly Sabbaths. Right? Verse 3. Verse 3. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes, with all their heart and all their soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest and the priests of the second order and the keepers of the door to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal and for the grove and for all the hosts of heaven, the stars, the moon, stuff like that. That's the host of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. So Josiah commanded men to go. They should be keeping the commandments. He commanded them that they go in and destroy all of the idols that was set up in the temple. That's what he was doing. As we read on, he's going to continue to do that same thing. Verse 5, and he put down the idolatrous priests whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah and in the places round about Jerusalem. So at this time, even there were priests that were set up to burn incense and sacrifice to false gods, to idols, right? Them also that burn incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the hosts of heaven. See, so that's the proof that the host of heaven is talking about the sun, moon, stars, planets, all of that stuff. So they were into like horoscopes and all this other stuff. They were observe times, horoscopes, and all this other stuff. All right, what's your sign, zodiacs, and whatever. Verse 6, and he brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. So he sent. So this powder, he took the idols out of the temple, burned them up, smashed them into powder, and then sprinkled that powder amongst the graves of Israel. Those that died practicing all those idolatrous practices, burning incense to false gods and idols, worshiping stars and the sun and the moon and stuff like that. Like he went in. Josiah went in. It says, verse 7, and he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the grove. Excuse me. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense from Geba to Beersheba, and brake down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among the brethren. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. So that's what it was talking about in chapter 22, I believe, or 21, about no. This burning incense that they was doing was burning incense to other gods. The frankincense and myrrh that we burn, you have the high priests that were commanded to burn. When you read Exodus, I want to say 29 or 30. I'm shooting from the hip on that, but so no. But the incense that they were burning it to idols. That valley of I think that was Brother Abidan that asked earlier about Hinnom, or somebody just asked me how to spell it. That valley of Hinnom is what we were talking about, what we were reading about earlier when they were sacrificing the kids. It was a place. It was a garbage inferno, and it was on fire, and they would toss their children in. Like today, like I say, it's an abortion. Verse 11, and he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entering in of the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire. And the altars that were on top of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king beat down, and break them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron, and the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had builded for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. So that Ashtoreth today is east of Rome. It's the same thing that they were worshiping in Greece, which was Diana, which is the same thing that they were worshiping in Babylon, which was Ishtar. It was the same thing. Like there's nothing new under the sun. Semiramis, Queen of Heaven, Isis, Diana, same idol, different names. Same idol, different names. Queen of Heaven. In Catholicism, it's Mother Mary. Yeah, because it's the Queen, Mother Mary, which is what they would consider the Queen of Heaven, which is what you read about in Acts 19, Diana, which is what you read in Jeremiah 30 or chapter 30, chapter 44, one of the two. The queen had or Isis or Semiramis, same thing. Same idol, different names. The same thing. Verse 14. And he brake in pieces the images and cut down the groves and filled their places with the bones of men. So he would have like the high priest killed, not the high priest, but the priest killed that would burn the incense and throw their bones um, in all of these places where they had these idols set up. Verse 15. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, verse 15. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel in the high place, which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. So this Jeroboam is the first Jeroboam. Jeroboam son of Nebat is the first Jeroboam. Both who made Israel to sin had made both that altar and the high place. He brake down and burned the high place and stamped it small to powder and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres and burned them upon the altar and polluted it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then he said, what title is that I see? And the men of the city told him, it is the sepulchre of the man of God, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that thou hast done against the altar of Bethel. And he said, let him alone. Let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. And all the houses also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the king of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. And he killed all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem. And the king commanded all the people, saying, keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop right there. But right before we get to the Passover celebration that they're getting ready to have in Jerusalem, I'm going to stop right there. So, you see, like I was saying a little bit ago, the up and down that Israel was always in, how Israel was so double-minded, and depending upon the leader is how the people were going to be. I'm not sure. Let me see if it says in Chronicles. It may say it in Chronicles. In just a second. Let me see. No, it doesn't say. It just says there came a man of God. It's the same thing. It doesn't say though. It doesn't say. Why did he spread their ashes over their idols? It was a sign of disrespect to them. So you're not going to get a respectful burial or whatever. Like when the scripture says in Exodus 15:3 that the Lord is a man of war, it says in Corinthians, I think it's 2 Corinthians 7 and 2 Corinthians 10, something like that, that he's a king of terrors. the Lord is not going to let you just get away with idolatry or whatever. So Josiah went in, and he went in and he killed the priests. He put their bones where they were practicing their idolatry. He stamped the rolls in the high places, burned them, stamped them in the powder, sprinkled them over sprinkled them over their graves. Verse 20 was a type of cremation. Verse 20. 23 and 20. I wouldn't say cremation in the, as in the technical sense, yes, but not in the cremation as this was some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't a sign, any type of sign of like respect or anything like that. I can't. A respectful way for us today would be how our forefathers did it. Matter of fact, go to John. No, that's just Josiah in his anger and him wanting to make sure that he sought vengeance for the Lord, basically. It was the same thing when you read Exodus 32 and Moses in his wrath and in his anger because Aaron had the people going into idolatry and they built that calf. What did Moses do when he came down from the mount and he found out that they were practicing idolatry? Y'all tell me, what did Moses do? Exodus 32. I'm finna find the burial custom real quick. It's in John. All of Babylon is gonna burn, which of course is all the churches. You'll have pastors that repent. You'll have that. Exactly, brother Abaddon. Exactly. Moses, it wasn't no law that told Moses to make Israel drink poisonous water, but in the anger that Moses felt at that time, what did he do? He melted down the golden calf, threw it in the river, and made Israel drink it. All right, no problem, sis, no problem. But let me find this. Let me find because I don't even know if I wrote it in this Bible. I want to say it's John. Let me, because I know it's in John. Give me just a second. Give me just a second. Somebody asked about burial, so I'm looking for the scripture in John 19:40. John 19:40. There's another one on the floor that I can't even remotely think of right now, but this is a good one. So this is the burial customs for Israel. John 19 and verse 40. Then took they the body of Jesus and wound it in linen clothes with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury, to bury, to bury. I'm going to read it again. It says, then took they the body of Jesus and wound it in linen clothes with the spices. They did the spices in put oils and stuff on the body so that as it was decaying, that it wouldn't rot, it wouldn't stink. So they put oils and spices and stuff like that. They would wrap up. It would get wrapped up, similar to a mummy. You would get wrapped up. You would, and then you would get put into a grave. You would be buried though. But our custom is burial, not cremation. It's not our custom. Um, today that would be extremely expensive to do. It can be done. It's just expensive. Thanks for the class. That one. Wait, what class that one made? I'm not sure what class means. I'm sorry. Nah. Burial. You know, burial. I mean, unless anyway, just yeah. I ain't touch that, but yeah, just burial. But, I mean, I don't know what the question was before it, but if you're referring to death and burials and stuff, yes, our customs burial. Have us our customs they make steeply cost. Yeah. Our customs burial. They when we talking about doing the oils and stuff like that, and being wrapped in linen and stuff like that, man, this stuff is expensive just because of the work that goes into it, materials and all of that. Like they not making it to where it's readily accessible and readily available to do. Wow, yeah, that's a lot. Now we ain't know nothing about no 3-piece suits. Nah. Today, just I mean, it ain't no sin, to say to be buried in like a 3-piece suit or whatever. If you have the ability to, just be buried or whatever, do that. Hey, shalom, Sister Renita. Um, yeah, the cross, like you have something similar with the aunt, the Egyptian aunt. All of those idols are, I mean, it's all idolatry. Like it literally means nothing. To the other nations, it's everything. Like you got hey, shalom. You have, Brother Azaziah. Good to see you, bro. I can't think of all the idols. But you got the horse, not the horse, the elephant with all the arms. What is that? I forget what it is. Whatever that thing is, you got all kind of idolatry. But that's what it is. But it's all idolatry. There's a kid teaching or a class video about the cross. The cross is a sign of our oppression. Our custom is burial. Our custom is not being cremated, being burned and flown over the sea. That's not our custom. Our custom is burial. The scripture we use was John 19:40. When you read, like when it says we were buried with our fathers, because burial was our custom. It was never a custom. It never said we were burned at the stake and, and buried with our fathers and nothing like that. Our ashes was thrown over the sea. That was never a custom of ours. All this stuff is idolatry. That was never a custom of ours. No. When you read Tobit, what did Tobit do? Tobit was going around burying brothers and sisters. They was throwing people over the wall. They was falling 40 feet. Um, they was being killed because um, he was carried away during the Assyrian captivity. And so when he went back to the land, he was like, dang, man, everybody's being killed around him. So he would go in and he would bury his brothers and sisters. Where is that? King of Terrors? I don't know. Y'all know y'all be asking me stuff. You know what I'm talking about. King of Terror. Let's see. Job 18. Job 18 and 14. Job 18 and 14. King of Terrors. I would not be donating no organs. I mean, unless it can be guaranteed that I'll be able to give it to a brother or sister in the body, in the truth, and cool. I'm not giving my lung or my heart or my kidneys to no heathen. That's what they gonna do. You don't have no say in who that organ goes to when you put it on the back of the driver's license. Yeah, he's an organ donor. She's an organ donor, and then your organ end up going to a Edomite. That's on you. Do your thing. I'm not giving my organs to nobody else. There was another one in. Oh yeah, here it is. 2 Kings 5 and 11. 2 Kings 5 verse 10. The brother just asked about the king of terrors that I had mentioned. 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. So all of our lives are going to be weighed on a scale, weighed in a balance. The Bible is going to be on one scale, your deeds, your works on the earth on the other scale, and it's going to be weighed. Your good better outweigh your bad. Your good works better outweigh your evil works. Verse 11, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. So that's why the Lord said it, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The healthy level of fear that we have to have for the Most High is going to push us in this truth. It should be pushing you through this truth. Actually, I think that was Brother Azaziah. You mentioned something on Facebook about you wanting, what it said, wanting to like something like build up the fear that you see in leadership or something like that. And I thought that was profound. I was like, damn, we all got to be able to build up that fear for the Lord, because that's what's going to push us in this truth. Not 2 Kings, 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10 and 11. Yeah, bro. Yeah. You said that, bro. That was profound. That was profound. Right. No problem. Sister, brother or sister Zoni, for those, the difference is when you have the ability, you die from a heart attack. The custom is for you to be buried. Now, in other cases like war, or you get into a car wreck and it's a ball of flames or whatever, that's completely different. There's you don't really have the opportunity at that point to for to be able to carry out the custom the way it was, the way we had it. With us being in this captivity, we don't were not afforded the same opportunities. A lot of the same opportunities we were afforded when we were in our own land. So things like, you know, uh, being buried and stuff like that. You see how we was dealing when we was in the land. We wasn't even dealing right when we was in the land. So the Lord said, cool, you don't want to deal right while you in the land, I'm going to take you out of the land. It'll be desolate, and y'all will go and serve other gods in other lands for a period of time. But as far as, yeah, the Lord is going to bring the spirit back. Our bodies are just vessel vehicles for our spirit. The real you is the spirit that's inside of you. Once your spirit leaves your body, that's it. Your body it's nothing, So we waiting for those new bodies, those spiritual bodies, those immortal bodies. Those are the bodies we waiting for, not the ones that are subject to arthritis and gout and fungus and all this other stuff. Nah, there's no, you can't do anything about that. The Lord is gonna raise the spirit up. Don't get hung up on the physical flesh, because the Lord's gonna raise it. Yeah, the Lord's gonna raise up the spirit. Now she's gonna be judged according. We all gonna be judged into our works. So it don't matter what we did to the body. We're gonna be judged according to our works. Right, right. Yeah, that palace body. Yeah, that palace body. That palace body. Yeah. Cool. All right. All praises, man. Well, it's almost 6 o'clock my time. Could you explain blasphemy against the Holy Ghost? It's blasphemy against going against the laws of God. It's the very, very very brief, very basic answer, because this is history in the AM. But Sunday, Lord's will, I can answer that. But that would be somebody that, is a reprobate, has a reprobate mind and goes back into the world. They blaspheme the law. That's blasphemy against the Holy Ghost. Holy Ghost is law. All praises. All right. Well, Lord's will. See y'all. If I got to fill in, maybe sometime this week. But if not, Lord's will next Sunday, as well as next Monday. So.